Ma'am, we don't just hand out accounts to anyone off the street.
I'd like to speak with your branch manager, please.
He thought she'd leave. She didn't move an inch.
Craig's already explained. There's nothing more we could do here.
Maybe try a check cashing place. More your speed.
She reached into her pocket, and the whole room went silent. What was inside that wallet changed everything in that branch. She slid the papers back and said, "There's nothing I can do." The woman didn't argue. She just opened her wallet. And the lobby of First Heritage Savings Bank in Beaufort, South Carolina, went dead silent. Not quiet, not hushed, dead. The kind of silence that drops on a room like a steel door slamming shut, where the air conditioning hum suddenly sounds like a freight train because every human mouth in the building has stopped making noise at the exact same time. The teller at window 3 froze with her hand still hovering over a stack of 20s, fingers curled mid-count. A retired couple near the deposit slips turned in unison like weather vanes catching the same wind. The security guard by the door, a young guy, couldn't have been more than 22, took one step forward and then thought better of it. He just stood there, hand resting on his belt, watching. Everyone was watching. Because the woman standing in the center of that polished marble floor, petite, 5'3" at most, shoulders squared like she'd learned to stand that way before she learned to walk, had just flipped open a slim black leather badge wallet and held it 3 inches from Craig Pendleton's face. 3 inches. Close enough for him to read every letter on the federal seal without his reading glasses. Close enough to smell the worn leather. Close enough to see the corner of a photograph tucked behind the badge, creased from years of writing in her back pocket. Craig Pendleton did not move. His pale blue eyes, those narrow-set little eyes that had spent the last 15 minutes looking through this woman like she was a smudge on the glass, went wide. The ruddy flush that always sat across his cheeks drained out like somebody had pulled a plug. His thin lips parted. His jaw, that narrow, pointed jaw, dropped half an inch and just hung there. Behind him, mounted on the wall in a brushed silver frame, his top producer plaque for Q3 caught the overhead fluorescent light. Regional Excellence in Client Growth, it said. Craig Pendleton, Branch Manager. That plaque might as well have been written in a dead language now, because the badge wallet in front of his face didn't say Top Producer. It didn't say Regional Excellence. It said something else entirely, and every letter of it was about to end his career. Denise lowered the badge by exactly 1 inch, not to her side, not into her pocket. 1 inch, just enough to let him see her eyes, deep brown, steady, unblinking. The light scatter of freckles across the bridge of her nose didn't move. The small, faint birthmark on the left side of her neck, just below her ear, pulsed once with her heartbeat. Her flat twist, jet black, pinned close to her scalp without a single loose strand, hadn't shifted a millimeter through this entire encounter. Nothing about this woman was out of place. She was the calmest person in the building, and she was about to burn it down. Her voice came out level, surgical, unhurried, the kind of voice that doesn't need volume because it carries weight all on its own. "Everything you said to me in that office was recorded, Mr. Pendleton. Every word, every refusal, every reason you invented." Craig's mouth opened. His lips moved like he was trying to form a sentence, trying to reach for that smooth, branch manager cadence he used on everybody who walked through those glass doors. But nothing came out. Not a syllable. The heavy silver ballpoint pen clipped to his shirt pocket, the one he'd been tapping against his desk 5 minutes ago while he explained, with that little smirk dimpling his left cheek, that her documentation was insufficient and there was really nothing he could do. That pen sat perfectly still now. His hand didn't even twitch toward it. Good. He was learning. Movement at the teller line. Sandra Layton. Ash blonde blowout stiff as a helmet, burgundy blazer buttoned tight, gray-green eyes darting sideways, reached for the phone behind the counter. Her gold chain-link bracelet clinked against the receiver as her fingers closed around it. She'd been standing there the whole time, arms crossed, weight on one hip, watching Denise get turned away, with that thin-lipped, pressed expression that said she approved of every word Craig had spoken. Now, her instinct was the same as every person in power whose walls start closing in. Call someone. Call anyone. Make this go away. Denise didn't even turn her head. She spoke toward Craig, but the words were for Sandra, and everyone in that lobby knew it. Put the phone down. The people you need to call are already here. Sandra's hand stopped. Her fingers tightened on the receiver, then loosened, because the glass front doors of First Heritage Savings Bank swung open, and 3 figures walked in carrying federal file boxes. 2 men and a woman, all in dark suits, all moving with the kind of purpose that doesn't ask permission. Their shoes hit that marble floor in near unison, and the sound echoed off the crown molding like a drum roll nobody had requested. The security guard stepped aside without being asked. He knew. Everybody in that lobby knew. You don't stand in front of a wave like that. Denise reached into the badge wallet with her other hand, the one with the thin, plain gold wedding band, worn smooth from years of use, and drew out a single folded document. She unfolded it with one motion, no hurry, no flourish, and set it flat on Craig Pendleton's desk, right on top of the papers he'd slid back to her, right on top of his refusal. A cease and desist order, federal seal at the top, his name in the body of the text. This branch is now under federal review. Her voice didn't rise, didn't waver. Sit down, Mr. Pendleton. He sank into his chair like his strings had been cut. The leather creaked under him. His silver cufflinks caught the light one more time as his hands dropped to the armrests, and he stared at the document on his desk like it was his own death certificate. But here's the thing. To understand how we got to this moment, this beautiful, devastating, absolutely earned moment, you need to go back. 6 weeks. Back to a windowless conference room in Washington, D.C., where fluorescent lights buzzed over government-issue furniture, and a woman sat with her hands folded in her lap, deliberate and unhurried, the way she did everything. A woman who'd been waiting her whole life for exactly this kind of assignment. Denise's voice cuts through the frozen lobby one final time, clear as a bell, calm as still water. My name is Denise Caldwell. I'm a senior field examiner with the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation. 6 weeks earlier. A windowless conference room at the FDIC's Division of Risk Management in Washington, D.C., fluorescent lights humming that low, tired hum, stale coffee and paper cups nobody's touched, a table the color of wet cement. Denise Caldwell sits across from her supervisor, Arthur Keene. Her hands are folded in her lap, still, deliberate, that single flat twist pinned close to her scalp, not a strand loose, the pale lavender cotton blouse with its small mother-of-pearl buttons tucked into worn straight-leg jeans, the thin gold wedding band on her left ring finger, worn so smooth it barely catches the light anymore, scuffed beige ballet flats crossed at the ankle beneath the table. 5'3", squared shoulders, unblinking deep brown eyes. You look at her and you think, maybe she's somebody's aunt. Maybe she's a school librarian. Maybe she works the front desk at a doctor's office and brings homemade pound cake on Fridays. You would be dead wrong. Denise Caldwell graduated from Howard University in 2004, magna cum laude, with a degree in economics. She walked straight into Georgetown Law, passed the bar on her first try, and then, instead of chasing partner at some firm with her name on the lobby wall, she took a GS-13 position with the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, bank examiner. The kind of job nobody talks about at cocktail parties because nobody even knows what it means. Here's what it means. It means she walks into banks and tears their books apart, page by page, number by number, until she finds what they're hiding, and they are always hiding something. 9 years she's been doing this. 9 years of 14-hour days, cold hotel rooms, small-town branch managers sweating through their collars when she pulls their loan files. She is one of only 4 black women at the senior examiner level in the entire FDIC. 4. Out of hundreds. Let that sit with you for a second. She drives a 12-year-old Honda Accord. Washes it herself on Sundays. The paint's faded on the hood, and there's a scratch along the passenger door she never bothered to fix. She doesn't care. The car runs. It gets her where she needs to go. And where she needs to go is wherever the numbers don't add up. Now. The badge wallet. Slim black leather tucked in her back pocket, slightly bulging. Not because the federal seal is thick. It's not. It's bulging because behind that seal, she keeps a photograph. Wallet-sized, edges soft from being handled too many times. Marcus Caldwell, her husband. High school principal over at Dunbar in Southeast D.C. Big laugh, gentle hands. The kind of man who stayed late every single Friday to tutor students who were falling behind, not because anyone told him to, but because he couldn't stand the idea of a young person slipping through the cracks. He died 2 years ago. Heart attack. 41 years old, standing in his own kitchen on a Wednesday evening, and his heart just stopped. Denise found him on the floor next to the stove. The burner was still on. She turned it off before she called 911. She doesn't know why she did that. She thinks about it sometimes. That photo behind the badge, Marcus in a navy polo, smiling at something off camera, that's what she touches every morning before she clips the wallet into her pocket. Every single morning. A ritual. A promise. She doesn't talk about it. She doesn't need to. The weight is just there, settled into her bones like weather. So, when Arthur Keene leans forward across that cement-colored table, his silver-gray hair cropped clean in that tight fade, dark charcoal suit jacket open over a light blue shirt with no tie, the thick manila case folder tucked under his left arm like always. When Arthur sets his clasped hands on the table and says her name with that particular gravity, Denise doesn't flinch. She just waits. Arthur pulls the folder out and lays it flat between them. First Heritage Savings. Beaufort, South Carolina branch. 14 consumer complaints filed in 18 months, every single one from a black applicant. Loan denial rates for black borrowers running triple the county average. Triple. In a county where black families make up nearly half the population. The numbers aren't just bad, they're screaming. And it gets worse. 2 former employees, 2 people who actually worked inside that branch, filed internal complaints alleging that the senior loan officer, a man named Craig Pendleton, had been coaching staff to find reasons to deny applications from certain zip codes. Not overtly, not in writing, but in morning huddles, in sidebar conversations, in the way he'd tap that heavy silver pen against a file and say things like, "This one's got geography problems," or "Run it again, I bet you missed something." Certain zip codes. You know exactly which zip codes. Both employees were terminated within weeks of filing. One got walked out on a Tuesday. The other got a call on her personal phone telling her not to come back. Their complaints were buried. Buried by the branch manager, Sandra Layton, ash blonde hair blown out stiff, that gold chain link bracelet she's always fiddling with, burgundy blazer buttoned tight like armor. Sandra Layton, who happens to have a personal relationship with the bank's regional president. Convenient, right? Real convenient. The kind of convenient that makes paperwork disappear and whistleblowers go quiet. The FDIC wants Denise to go in undercover, posing as an ordinary applicant. Walk through the front door, sit down, fill out the paperwork, and document firsthand exactly how that branch treats a black woman looking for a home loan. Standard protocol for a pattern and practice probe. Nothing fancy. Just show up and let them tell on themselves. Arthur watches her read the file. He knows what she's thinking because he knows where she comes from. Denise's mother, Gloria Caldwell. Denied a home loan 3 times in the 1990s by a bank in rural Virginia that doesn't even exist anymore. Doesn't exist because Gloria Caldwell filed the complaint. One complaint, handwritten on notebook paper, mailed to a federal office she found in the phone book. That complaint triggered the investigation that shut the bank down. Denise was 19 when she watched her mother sign that letter. That memory built everything. Every class at Howard, every brief at Georgetown, every bank she's ever walked into with that badge wallet in her back pocket. She doesn't hesitate, not even for a breath. "I'll go." 2 words. Quiet. Final. Arthur slides the file across the table and says 1 word. Beaufort. Denise's hand rests on the folder. She already knows what's inside. because she grew up in a town just like it. Denise arrives in Beaufort, South Carolina on a Tuesday morning. No briefcase, no suit. Cotton blouse, worn jeans, plain flats. She parks her Accord in the customer lot between a Mercedes and a BMW. And listen, if you've never been to Beaufort, let me paint it for you. This is a town that wears its history like a pressed linen suit. Spanish moss hangs from live oak so old they've watched entire centuries pass without flinching. The streets are lined with antebellum homes, wide porches, wrought iron gates, gardens manicured within an inch of their lives. Old money lives here. Old money breathes here. And old money has a way of arranging things so you know exactly where you stand the moment you cross the town line. There's a geography to it. The historic district with its pastel mansions and waterfront views. The other side, where the pavement cracks and the streetlights take longer to get fixed. Nobody draws a map. Nobody has to. The hierarchy is baked into the soil, quiet as root rot and twice as deep. Main Street runs through the heart of it. A law office on one corner, a boutique selling $400 scarves on the other. And right there between them, like a monument to respectability itself, sits First Heritage Savings and Loan. 2 stories, red brick facade, white columns flanking the entrance, an American flag on a brass pole. The kind of building that wants you to feel safe, that wants you to believe the system works. That's the point. That's always the point. The building isn't designed to serve you. It's designed to convince you it might. Denise pushes through the glass double doors, and the lobby opens up like a stage set. Polished cream tile underfoot, so clean it catches the overhead light and throws it back. Brass fixtures everywhere, the door handles, the teller windows, the railing on the velvet rope line that guides customers single file toward the counter. Pamphlet racks stand near the entrance, fanned out with glossy brochures about home equity lines and retirement accounts and first-time buyer programs. Framed photos line the walls, community fundraisers, ribbon cuttings, a youth baseball team sponsored by the bank. Every image carefully curated, every smile carefully chosen. The performance of trustworthiness, rehearsed to perfection. Her scuffed beige ballet flats make no sound on that tile. The crease across the toe catches the light for half a second. Her pale lavender blouse is tucked neatly into her worn, straight-leg jeans, and that thin gold wedding band, smooth from years on her finger, catches the fluorescent glow. Her flat twist is pinned close and tight, not a strand loose. Her shoulders are squared, military straight, the way they always are. She looks like a woman running errands on her day off. She looks ordinary. That's the whole operation. A greeter stands near the entrance. Young white woman, maybe mid-20s, wearing a navy polo with the bank's logo stitched on the chest. She's got a clipboard. She's got a smile. Well, she had a smile. The second Denise walks in, something shifts. The greeter's eyes travel, down from Denise's face to the blouse, to the jeans, to the flats, back up. And whatever calculation happens behind those eyes, whatever algorithm of assumption fires in that half second, it lands on a verdict. No smile. No, how can I help you today? No, welcome to First Heritage. Just a tight nod toward a row of hard plastic chairs by the pamphlet rack. You can wait over there. 4 words. Flat. Dismissive. Like she's directing someone to the back of a bus. Denise doesn't blink. Those deep brown eyes stay steady, unreadable. She walks to the chairs. She sits. She folds her hands in her lap, deliberate and still. And she watches. Now here's what Denise is carrying in that plain canvas bag on her shoulder. A fully prepared loan application for a modest home purchase. $185,000. A 3-bedroom in a quiet neighborhood on the edge of town. The paperwork is immaculate. Credit documentation that would make an underwriter weep with joy. Excellent score, long history, 0 delinquencies. Stable income records going back years. Tax returns, bank statements, employment verification. Everything buttoned up, everything legitimate. Every single box checked, every single line filled, every single number verified. She knows exactly what a clean application looks like because she has reviewed thousands of them from the other side of the desk. thousands. She has held applications just like this one in her hands and approved them, denied them, flagged them for review. She knows the weight of a yes and the mechanics of a no. She knows every trick, every loophole, every quiet way a bank can turn someone away without ever saying the real reason out loud. But there's something else in that bag. Tucked into the lining, small enough to miss if you aren't looking. A recording device. Federal issue. Compact, matte black, no bigger than a pack of gum. Before Denise sat down in that hard plastic chair, before she folded her hands, before she let herself become invisible, she activated it. One press of her thumb against the side of the bag, a faint click, softer than a breath. That's it. Every second from this point forward is on tape. She sits. She counts. A white couple walks in, mid-30s, khakis, and boat shoes. The greeter lights up like a Christmas display. "Welcome to First Heritage. Can I get you some water? Let me walk you right back." Gone. Escorted directly to an office. 2 minutes later, a white man in a golf shirt. Same treatment. Warm handshake, eye contact, water offered. 3 minutes after that, a white woman with a designer bag. "Oh, Miss Patterson, so good to see you again. Right this way." 3 customers. 3 warm greetings. 3 escorts to private offices. Denise has been sitting in that chair the entire time. The greeter hasn't looked at her once since pointing to the waiting area. Not once. Denise notes the timestamps in her head. She notes the faces. She notes the pattern. Her posture doesn't change. Her expression doesn't shift. That small, faint birthmark on the left side of her neck, just below her ear, catches the light as she turns her head slightly to track the 3rd customer disappearing down the hallway. 15 minutes pass. White customers who arrived after her are seen first. The greeter hasn't looked at her once since pointing to the waiting area. Then a voice from the back hallway. "Ms. Caldwell? Mr. Pendleton will see you now." Craig Pendleton's office is exactly what Denise expected. The top producer plaque, the silver cufflinks, the gel-slicked hair, the practiced lean-back posture of a man who thinks he runs the room. She'd walk down that back hallway behind the greeter, past framed photos of ribbon cuttings and charity golf tournaments, past a water cooler nobody offered her a cup from, and into this corner office with its floor-to-ceiling window overlooking the parking lot. Craig sat behind a wide mahogany desk positioned on a subtle riser, maybe 2 inches higher than the rest of the floor. You'd miss it if you weren't looking. Denise was looking. He didn't stand when she entered, didn't extend his hand, didn't say welcome or please have a seat. He just glanced up from his computer screen, pale blue eyes, narrow set and already bored, and gave her a once-over that lasted exactly 1 second. That's all the time he needed. 1 second to scan the pale lavender cotton blouse, the worn straight-leg jeans, the scuffed beige ballet flats. 1 second to decide she didn't matter. The guest chair sat about 4 inches lower than his desk chair, ergonomically deliberate. The angle forced you to look up at him slightly, like a student called to the principal's office. The heavy silver ballpoint pen clipped to his shirt pocket caught the overhead light every time he shifted. Denise pulled the chair out herself, sat down, squared her petite shoulders, rested her hands in her lap, still, deliberate, unhurried. The thin gold wedding band on her left ring finger caught its own light, worn smooth from years of use. She placed her application folder on the edge of his desk. Neat, complete, every line filled in, every document attached. Craig picked it up with one hand, thumb and forefinger, like he was lifting a napkin someone had sneezed into. He flipped the first page, didn't read it, flipped the second. His eyes weren't tracking the lines, they were skating across the surface, performing the motion of reading without any of the substance. That thin-lipped smirk appeared, and the faint dimple on his left cheek surfaced just enough to make it look like he was enjoying a private joke. "So," he let the word hang, "where do you work?" "Government," Denise said, flat, neutral. "Government." He repeated it like she'd said circus. The dark brown hair slicked back with gel didn't move when he tilted his head. Nothing about Craig Pendleton moved unless he wanted it to. Federal? State? County? Federal. He flipped another page he didn't read. And what are you driving these days? An odd question for a mortgage application review. Denise didn't blink. Those deep brown eyes stayed steady and unblinking. Honda Accord. And there it was, the laugh. Not a real laugh, a short nasal exhale through his nose, the kind of sound you make when someone tells you they're training for the Olympics and they can barely jog a mile. He didn't even try to hide it. The silver pen came out of his pocket and started tapping against the edge of the desk. Tap, tap, tap. Then the slide. Craig gathered the papers, her application, her income verification, her pre-qualification letter, every document she'd carefully organized, and pushed them back across the desk with his fingertips. Not his palm, his fingertips, like the paper was contaminated, like whatever she'd touched might transfer. I'm going to be honest with you, ma'am. He leaned back in that elevated chair, one hand resting on his belt, chin tilted slightly upward. This little application isn't going to work here. Our lending standards are particular. Particular. Let that word sit in your chest for a second. Particular. Not rigorous, not strict. Particular. A word shaped like a door closing. A word that means not for people who look like you, drive what you drive, come from where you come from. He didn't say the quiet part out loud. He didn't have to. The architecture of the room said it. The 2-inch riser said it. The 15 minutes in the waiting area while white customers walked straight through said it. And the recorder in the slim black leather badge wallet in Denise's back pocket heard every syllable. Have you considered? Craig continued, tapping that silver pen against his palm now. Trying a credit union on the east side? Heritage Credit or maybe Eastbrook Savings? They're more suited to your situation. Your situation. There's the second door closing. The east side, where the check cashing places outnumber the banks, where the interest rates run 3 points higher and nobody asks why. He was drawing her a map back to the margins, politely, professionally, with a smile that never reached those pale blue, narrow-set eyes. This wasn't Craig Pendleton's first time. You could hear it in the smoothness, the rehearsed rhythm. He'd said these exact words before to other women who looked like Denise, who drove 10-year-old Hondas and wore wedding bands instead of diamond clusters. He had a script for this, and he was comfortable in it. Denise didn't flinch, didn't raise her voice. The flat twist pinned close to her scalp didn't move. The freckles across the bridge of her nose caught the fluorescent light as she leaned forward, just slightly. Can you tell me specifically what about my application is deficient? Simple question, direct question, the kind of question that should have a simple, direct answer if the denial were legitimate. Craig's pen stopped tapping. For half a breath, something flickered behind those pale blue eyes. Not guilt. Annoyance. The annoyance of a man who expected the door to work the first time he opened it. It's just not the right fit. He spread his hands, palms up, like he was explaining gravity to someone who'd never seen an apple fall. I wish I had better news. No numbers cited, no debt-to-income ratio mentioned, no credit score referenced, nothing from the application he never actually read. Just a door, opened for her to walk through, and beyond the glass partition of Craig's office, standing behind the teller line with her arms crossed and her weight shifted to one hip, Sandra Layton watched. Ash blonde hair blown out stiff, gray-green eyes tracking every moment through that window. The gold chain-link bracelet on her right wrist caught the light as she adjusted it. She saw Craig push those papers back. She saw Denise sitting in that lowered chair. She saw all of it. She said nothing. That silence is its own indictment. Remember her face. It's going to matter. Craig stood up, opened his office door, and said, I think we're done here. Denise gathered the papers he slid back at her, tucked them into her bag, and walked out without a word. But she didn't leave the parking lot. Not yet. Denise sits in her Honda Accord in the parking lot of First Heritage Savings Bank. Engine off, hands on the steering wheel. 2 minutes of silence. Not the peaceful kind. Not the meditative kind. The kind where your whole body is vibrating at a frequency you can't hear, but you can feel in your teeth, in your knuckles, in the base of your throat where the scream lives but doesn't come out. Her fingers are wrapped around the steering wheel at 10 and 2, and her grip is so tight the tendons in her forearms are visible beneath her deep, warm brown skin. The thin, plain gold wedding band on her left ring finger catches a slant of afternoon South Carolina sun, throwing a tiny spark of light across the dashboard, worn smooth from years of use, worn smooth from years of holding on. She breathes once, slow, controlled, military straight posture even sitting down, her squared shoulders pressed into the cloth seat of a car that's got over 140,000 miles on it. Her eyes, deep brown and steady and unblinking, stare through the windshield at the glass front doors of the bank she just walked out of. The flat twist pinned close to her scalp doesn't move. Nothing about Denise Caldwell moves unless she decides it moves. Her right hand releases the wheel, reaches behind her, finds the slim black leather badge wallet in her back pocket. She doesn't open it, not yet, but she feels the slight bulge, the photo tucked behind the federal seal. Marcus, her husband, the man who'd told her over breakfast 3 days ago, stirring his coffee with that quiet grin of his, that she was going to nail this one. She presses her thumb against the leather, holds it there, then she puts the wallet back and picks up her phone. One call, that's all it takes. Arthur Keene picks up on the second ring. His voice comes through low and deliberate, the way it always does, like a man who measures every word before he spends it. She can picture him on the other end, broad shoulders filling out that dark charcoal suit jacket, the thick manila case folder tucked under his left arm, even while he's holding the phone, silver gray hair cropped clean in that fade, his dark brown eyes deep set and already knowing what she's about to say. Denise gives him the confirmation code, 6 words, flat, no emotion. Just the signal. The pattern is confirmed. Arthur's voice on the other end doesn't rise, doesn't celebrate. He just says, "We're 30 minutes out." And that's it. That's the detonator. See, here's what Craig Pendleton didn't know when he was leaning back in his chair with that smirk cutting into his left cheek, tapping his heavy silver pen against his desk like he was keeping time on how fast he could ruin a woman's afternoon. Here's what Sandra Layton didn't know when she was adjusting that gold chain-link bracelet and watching from behind the teller line with her arms crossed and her chin level, like she was supervising the removal of something unpleasant from the premises. The federal team was already here. Not in the bank, but close, real close. 2 men and a woman from the FDIC's enforcement division had been sitting in a conference room at a hotel in Beaufort since Monday. 3 days. Laptops open, case files spread across a table, a DOJ attorney on standby with a cease and desist order already drafted, already reviewed, already waiting for one phone call to make it live. They hadn't been fishing, they hadn't been guessing, they'd been waiting, patiently, surgically. For Denise to walk into that bank, sit across from Craig Pendleton, and let him do exactly what they knew he would do. This was never a fishing expedition. This was a surgical strike, and Craig just handed them the knife. So now, Denise waits. 30 minutes. Engine off. Windows up. Hands back on the wheel, loose this time. She watches the bank through her windshield like she's studying a specimen under glass. Customers come and go. A white man in khakis walks in, gets a wave and a smile from the greeter inside the door. An older white woman exits holding a folder, looking satisfied. Normal day, normal bank, nothing to see here. Then a black couple walks in. Young, well-dressed. The woman's holding a folder of her own, probably paperwork, probably prepared, probably hopeful. And Denise watches the greeter's face do the exact same thing it did to her 40 minutes ago. That micro-pause, that half-second inventory, that tightening around the eyes that says, "Can I help you?" but means, "Should you be here?" The pattern repeats in real time, right in front of her, like clockwork, like policy. Denise's jaw tightens. The small, faint birthmark on the left side of her neck, just below her ear, shifts as she swallows once. Hard. Her freckles catch the light across the bridge of her nose. She doesn't look away. 22 minutes later, 3 dark sedans pull into the parking lot of First Heritage Savings Bank. Quiet. No sirens, no lights, just 3 vehicles moving with the kind of calm, deliberate purpose that tells you everything you need to know. File boxes are visible through the rear windows, thick ones, heavy ones, the kind that hold years of evidence. The team assembles near the far end of the lot. Arthur Keene steps out first, that manila folder tucked under his left arm, his brown leather wingtip shoes hitting the asphalt with weight. The 2 FDIC agents flank him. The DOJ attorney, a tall woman with reading glasses pushed up on her head, holds a sealed envelope in both hands like it's a verdict. Because it is. Denise meets them between the cars. She briefs them on what she recorded. Every word Craig said. Every document he refused to process. Every dismissal. The DOJ attorney nods once, confirms the cease and desist is ready to serve. And here's where I need you to understand something. Zoom out with me for a second, because this isn't just about Craig Pendleton. This isn't one bad loan officer having a power trip in a small-town bank. This is systematic redlining in a federally insured institution. Destroyed complaint files, terminated whistleblowers, a branch manager who buried evidence for years, a regional president who looked the other way because the numbers stayed clean on paper. The small noise just became a catastrophic failure, and every single person who built that machine is about to hear it collapse. Denise steps out of the Accord, straightens her lavender blouse, and walks back toward the glass front doors of First Heritage Savings. This time, the badge wallet is in her hand. This time, she's not applying for anything. Denise pushes through the glass front doors of First Heritage Savings Bank for the second time that day. But this time, she's not alone. And this time, Craig Pendleton is about to learn who he actually laughed at. 2 black SUVs are parked at the curb behind her. Federal plates, tinted windows, the kind of vehicles that don't show up at a small-town bank branch unless somebody's world is about to end. And Craig Pendleton's world? It's got about 90 seconds left. She crosses the lobby floor, those same polished tiles she walked across hours ago when Craig looked at her like she was something stuck to the bottom of his Oxford shoes. Her scuffed beige ballet flats make no sound. The slim black leather badge wallet is open in her left hand now, the federal seal catching every bit of that overhead fluorescent light. Her right hand hangs still at her side, unhurried, deliberate. Her flat twist pinned close to her scalp, her lavender blouse tucked neat into those worn straight-leg jeans, that thin gold wedding band worn smooth from years of use. She looks exactly the same as she did 3 hours ago. Exactly the same woman Craig dismissed, mocked, and slid those papers back to like she was wasting his precious time. Only difference? Now he's about to find out what she actually does for a living. She walks straight past the teller line, past the waiting area, past the little desk where Sandra Layton sat with her arms crossed and her gold chain-link bracelet glinting while she watched Craig humiliate a woman and didn't say a damn word. Denise doesn't stop, doesn't hesitate. She walks right up to Craig Pendleton's office door, and she pushes it open without knocking. He's sitting behind his desk, leaned back, of course, chin tilted up, one hand resting on his belt, that heavy silver ballpoint pen clipped to his shirt pocket like it's some kind of status symbol. His pale blue eyes flick up, annoyed, and then they land on her face. Recognition hits him like a truck. His ruddy cheeks go from pink to white in about half a second. The smirk that lived on those thin lips all morning? Gone. The faint dimple on his left cheek that only showed when he was being smug? Nowhere to be found. His narrow-set eyes widen, and for the first time today, Craig Pendleton has absolutely nothing clever to say. Denise holds the badge 3 inches from his nose, close enough for him to read every letter. My name is Denise Caldwell. I'm a senior field examiner with the FDIC, and every word you just said to me was recorded. Let that land for a second. Every word. The part where he told her she wasn't the type of client they typically serve. The part where he looked at her plain clothes, her old car in the parking lot, her simple hairstyle, and decided she was nobody. The part where he laughed. All of it. On the record. Craig's mouth opens. Nothing comes out. His jaw works like he's trying to form a sentence, but the words just aren't there anymore. That silver pen, the one he tapped against every surface like he owned the room, slips from his shirt pocket and rolls across the desk. It drops off the edge and hits the floor with a small metallic click that sounds, in this silence, like a gunshot. The cufflinks. The gel slicked back in that sharp left part. The charcoal slacks. The lean-back posture. All that armor he wore to make himself feel big while he made other people feel small. None of it means a single thing now. Behind Denise, the lobby doors open again. Heavy footsteps. Multiple sets. Sandra Layton appears in the doorway of Craig's office, gray-green eyes wide, that ash-blonde blowout slightly disheveled like she ran from her desk. Her hand is already reaching for the phone on Craig's credenza. Denise doesn't raise her voice. Doesn't need to. Put the phone down. The people you need to call are already here. And right on cue, the enforcement team pushes through those glass front doors. 4 federal agents in dark jackets, carrying stacked white file boxes, rolling hand carts, and sealed evidence bags. They move with the kind of calm efficiency that says, this isn't their first branch seizure, and it won't be their last. A cease and desist order, printed, signed, and dated, is placed on Craig Pendleton's desk, right on top of that neat little stack of papers he keeps arranged just so. The branch is placed under immediate supervisory action. Every computer terminal on the floor gets locked simultaneously. Every file cabinet gets a federal seal slapped across its drawer. The tellers, 3 of them, standing frozen behind the counter, are told to step away from their stations. Hands visible. Don't touch anything. Sandra tries to intervene. Of course she does. She steps forward with her chin level and her arms crossed, weight shifted to one hip, and starts in with the script. She had no knowledge of Craig's practices. She was unaware of any irregularities. She's the branch operations manager, not the loan officer, and she cannot be held responsible for decisions made outside her purview. Denise lets her finish. Every word of it. Doesn't interrupt, doesn't argue. Then she says, quiet and even, Ms. Layton, you are also under investigation. I'd recommend you contact an attorney. Sandra's hand drops to her side. That gold chain-link bracelet catches the overhead light one last time as her fingers go slack. The rigid posture cracks. The pressed lips part. For the first time since Denise walked into this bank, Sandra Layton has nothing to manage. Out in the lobby, customers are being escorted toward the exits. Politely but firmly. An agent holds the door. Another flips the open sign to its dark side. The automatic lock engages with a heavy click. Through the glass, Denise can see her 10-year-old Honda Accord sitting in the parking lot between those 2 black SUVs, plain and unassuming as ever. Just like her. First Heritage Savings Bank, Beaufort branch, is no longer doing business today, or possibly ever again. Craig Pendleton's top producer plaque is taken off the wall by a federal agent and placed into an evidence box. Sandra Layton is escorted from the building. The branch is sealed. Denise stands in the lobby, badge still visible, watching it all help with the same expression she had when Craig slid those papers back at her. Calm, level, unblinking. Over the following weeks, the investigation cracks First Heritage Savings wide open, and what the federal team finds is worse than anyone expected. See, everybody thought this was about one guy. One smug loan officer in a crisp white shirt with silver cufflinks, sliding papers back across the desk to black applicants like he was doing them a favor by even letting them sit down. But Craig Pendleton wasn't a rogue employee. He was the system working exactly as designed. The forensic audit of the entire Beaufort branch takes 11 days. 11 days of federal investigators pulling files from locked cabinets, imaging hard drives, cross-referencing denial records against demographic data. And the pattern that emerges is so clean, so consistent, it almost looks like someone wrote a manual for it. Systematic redlining. Not subtle, not ambiguous. Exposed in black ink on white paper, application after application after application. Legitimate loan requests from qualified black borrowers. people with clean credit, stable income, verified employment, marked with fabricated deficiencies, insufficient collateral on a property appraised 30% above the loan amount, unstable income on a woman who'd held the same nursing job for 14 years, incomplete documentation on files where every single page was present and accounted for. The denial reasons were fiction, exposed in black ink on white paper, every single one of them. And the complaint files. Oh, the complaint files. Federal regulation says borrower complaints get logged, reviewed, and forwarded to the appropriate regulatory body within 60 days. That's not optional. That's the law. The Beaufort branch had been destroying them, shredding physical copies, deleting digital records, complaints that should have reached the OCC, the CFPB, the FDIC, vanished. Years of them, gone like they never existed, like the people who filed them never existed. Arthur Keene's thick manila case folder gets thicker by the day. Craig Pendleton's banking license is permanently revoked. Not suspended, not under review. Permanently revoked. He is barred from the financial industry for life. Every institution, every capacity, every role. He will never sit behind a desk at a bank again. He will never review a loan application. He will never hold someone's financial future in his pale, freckled hands and decide they don't deserve it based on the color of their skin. And those top producer awards? Those shiny plaques that used to hang on his office wall, the ones he'd angle so every client could see them? Built on denial. Every single one. His production numbers were inflated because he funneled qualified black applicants into rejection and redirected business to white borrowers who sometimes had weaker profiles. He wasn't a top producer, he was a gatekeeper. Every plaque was a monument to discrimination, and now they sit in federal evidence boxes, tagged and cataloged. That heavy silver ballpoint pen he used to tap against his desk while he told Denise her application was not the right fit? He won't be tapping it against anything anymore. Sandra Layton. Terminated. Barred from the banking industry. The woman who stood there with her gold chain-link bracelet glinting under fluorescent lights, arms crossed, weight on one hip, backing up every lie Craig ever told. She wasn't just complicit, she was the architecture. The federal report exposes her personal relationship with the regional president of First Heritage Savings. That's why she buried the complaints. That's why she looked the other way when denial rates for black borrowers ran 3 times higher than for white borrowers with identical profiles. That's why she stood in that lobby and told Denise Caldwell, a federal investigator with a badge in her back pocket, that people like you should be grateful the bank even considered the application. She wasn't protecting the institution, she was protecting her access to power. And she enabled every single thing Craig did, every fabricated deficiency, every shredded complaint, every family that got turned away from homeownership because someone decided they didn't belong. The regional president resigns under pressure before the FDIC can formally remove him, doesn't even wait for the letter, just cleans out his office on a Tuesday morning and drives away. First Heritage Savings is fined $4.7 million. The Beaufort branch is placed under a consent decree requiring independent oversight for 5 years. 5 years of someone watching. 5 years of accountability that should have existed from the start. And Denise? Denise returns to Washington, D.C. Same 12-year-old Honda Accord she drove down in. Same pale lavender blouse with the small mother-of-pearl buttons. Same worn straight-leg jeans. Same scuffed beige ballet flats with the crease across the toe. The slim black leather badge wallet goes back into her desk drawer at the office, right next to the framed photo of Marcus, her brother, the reason she does this work, the man whose own loan denial 20 years ago lit a fire that never went out. She places the completed case file on her desk, thick, heavy, final. The plain gold wedding band on her left ring finger catches the overhead light, worn smooth from years of use. Her flat twist is pinned close to her scalp, not a strand out of place. Her deep brown eyes are steady, her broad shoulders are squared. Nothing about her has changed. Everything about that bank has. She whispers it so quiet you'd miss it if you weren't listening. Just like Mama taught us. That's the whole thing right there. Denise Caldwell didn't need a designer suit or a luxury car to walk into that bank and tear it apart from the inside out. She needed a recording device, a clean application, and the same quiet fury her mother carried 30 years ago when a different bank in a different town slid her papers back across a different desk. The people who look at a black woman in worn jeans and scuffed flats and see, not the right fit, they never learn. They see the plain clothes and the old car and the simple hairstyle, and they make their assumptions, and they say the quiet part just loud enough, and they think nobody's keeping score. But the women who keep showing up anyway, badge in the back pocket, gold band on the finger, mother's voice steady in their ear, they never stop. Denise drives home in the same Honda Accord, same flat twist in her hair, same gold band catching the last light through the windshield. She whispers, just like Mama taught us. Remember that the next time someone slides your papers back across the desk. You might not know who's sitting in that chair, but they know exactly who you are.